Rocio for Inky Impressions with another video tutorial, and today I have some information to share with you about stitching. These techniques are only suggestions, and so if you find that there's a better technique out there for you, by all means use it. And the first one that I'm going to show you is I use this Tim Holtz ruler. Now the ruler has all these grids, as you can see. Now what I do with these grids is I usually like to start off with an even number, so I'll start off at the 2. And it's very important that you keep a track of where the grids end and where the grids begin. And then I'll just use a fine tip on a marker, and this is my distress marker in the fired brick. And so I'm just going to begin my stitching. So what I'll do is I'll start stitching from the thick part or one end of the grid to the next. Then I'll skip this grid and I'll go to this grid and do the exact same thing. Start from the thick line all the way to the next. Then I'll skip this one, go to the next one. Skip this one, go to the next one. Okay, so let's pull the ruler away, let's zoom out, and let's take a look at how we did. So you can see that my line is pretty straight. My stitches are, as close to being the same size as possible. And so that's one way of doing stitching, is to do a faux stitching by using this Tim Holtz ruler. So next I'm going to show you the second technique that I use. This is my So Easy kit, and when you open the case, this is what you have inside. Now on this side I have a piercing mat, and it's pretty thick but very pierceable, like you can pierce through it. So let me show you how this works. This is the floss that comes with the floss packs. So now I'm going to take my needle and I'm just going to loop my floss through it. So now that I have my needle thread, let me show you what the first step should be. The next step should be, you want to get your head, your handle, along with the head, the stitching head or the piercing head that of your choosing. Alright, so let's just pierce right through. I'm going to zoom out. Okay, and now I'm just going to pierce right through. Okay, so there are the piercing holes created by the piercing head on the So Easy. And now what I'm going to do is I basically just take my thread and I can start creating my stitching. I'll start here. Leave about a half an inch of the thread in the back, and now you're going to hold it. And now I'm going to zigzag to the line right below it, diagonally right below it, and I'm going to create my stitching. Okay, so there's one line, and I'm going to loop right through, and now I'm going to go down there. Okay, so now you can see that I'm starting to create that zigzag line. Next I'm going to pierce back onto that section, and I'm going to loop down, pierce down, or stitch down. So there's the next one. You want to make sure that you're pulling the thread every now and again so that your stitching looks, your floss doesn't start flaring. So that is one way to create the stitching using the We Are Memory Keepers So Easy.
Okay, so now we're moving to the third type of stitching, and it's by using your sewing machine. And I'm revealing the card that I created with this week's Inky Impressions Digi, and I did the stitching with my sewing machine. So here's what the front and the inside of the card look like, and I did stitching on both the outside, on the first and second layer, and also on the inside, as you can see there. Now what I'm going to what I'm going to show you is how to stitch and create pointy edges each and every time you turn your cardstock. Now that button there is really important to have in your sewing machine, and of course, you know, a variation of stitching options, but that button there is really important. And what that button does is it allows your needle to stay at the lower position every time you stop sewing. As you can see, I'm about to sew, and I've already started sewing, and as you can see, as I stop sewing, the needle stays at the lower position. And so what that's going to allow me to do is, once I reach the edge of my cardstock, which I will in just a second, the needle's going to stay at the lower position, and I'm going to be able to raise my presser foot lifter, as you see me do right there. And now I'm going to turn the card to the right, and the needle is still holding, or is stitched through the paper. Now take a look at the top right there of my cardstock. You can see how the corner is nice and pointy. And so now I lower the presser footer and I continue to stitch. And as you can see there, that the corner edge there is nice and pointy. It's not rounded or crooked, and so unless I intentionally want it to. But take a look at how the needle stays down every time I stop stitching. And that's what's going to ensure a nice straight edge at the corners of your cardstock. Now another thing you want to have is that button right there, and that's your reverse sewing button, which allows you to sew backwards. And one of the reasons you want to be able to do that is so you can secure your stitching. Now take a look. Now I did a double stitching on this, and I intentionally didn't keep a straight stitch because I wanted it to look a little sloppy. But you can see though how the corners of the cardstock there are nice and pointy, and that's what this technique is going to allow you to do. Now I did the same thing on my second layer for the front of the card using this floral paper and some Stampin' Up! Cardstock, and I used my zigzag stitching this time. But it's the same technique as I did in the first layer, and there's the end result. Now one of the things that I would suggest is to use some Scotch tape to glue down any loose threads. Now here's the card that I created this week with my Inky Impressions Digi, and this is a fairy lily, and I'm going to give you some close-ups of her in just a minute. But here I am gluing down my first layer onto the base of the card, and here is the second layer, which is a floral design that I distressed using my vintage photo ink. And I don't know what the floral paper is because I got it from my random stash, to be honest, but that circle die there is from Nestabilities. And then I used some assorted tags from K & Company to cut out all these flowers and these little birds and butterflies, and I just wanted it to look like a little garden at the bottom there. Now all the flowers are from Prima, and I'm using some glue dots to glue them down. Now the little butterfly that the Digi is holding there is also a cutout from that K & Company assorted tags paper, and I cut it out and used some Sakura gel pens to give the butterfly a little glitter, and then I adhered it onto her little hand so it looks like she's holding it. And then I applied some pearls on both the bottom left and the top right of the card, as you can see there. And I added lots and lots of glitter. So let me give you a close-up look at what the Digi looks like. I colored her with Copics. I used a variation of C1s and reds and teals, and then I used some Sakura gel pens also to add some random glitter throughout, as you can see. I also used my crystal effects from Stampin' Up! For her wings to create that sort of glow, shiny effect. Now let me show you what the inside looks like. Now as you saw there in the picture, I did some stitching, and I glued that cardstock onto some Gina K design, stitched it up, glued it onto a second layer using my ATG gun, and then I wanted to add some borders, and these borders come from an 8x8 paper pack called Simply Gorgeous, and I'll have a lot of the links on my website. Now this Digi didn't come with a sentiment, so I created my own using my Tim Holtz Tiny Tabs and Tags die, and my Stampin' Up! Ink, and my Stampin' Up! Fancy Phrases to add just a tiny little phrase in the front there. And I'm using my stamp tool here to make sure that I stamped onto my little tiny tag there in a precise position. And now I'm just gluing down my little tiny tag with the word thanks. And as you can see, I used a pink brad, but then I changed my mind and just added another of those pearl stickers there onto the tiny tag to hold it down. And that's the outside, that's the inside, and that's it. That's the card for this week. I hope that you learned a little something about stitching and are inspired to do a little stitching of your own in your cards. If you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and leave them at the bottom of this video, or you can go ahead and visit my website. For all the products used to make this card, you can visit me at www.theblankpapyrus.com. You can also visit the Inky Impressions websites for more information on this cute little Lily Fairy Digi or any other stamps that they have. And that website for Inky Impressions is www.inkyimpressions.com. Leave me any comments or questions. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Ciao.